Hello, everyone. Welcome to TALRadio. This is me, RJ Saankhya, hosting through the interview today. And this is a show where we bring you inspiring stories of organizations and individuals making a difference in the world. So let me ask a quick question in the first place. In today's rapidly changing world, how can we empower individuals with skills and opportunities that they need to succeed in the job market? Education for Employment Network, EFE, is an extraordinary organization that addresses this very question. So by providing market-driven, demand-led training programs, EFE aims to bridge the gap between education and employment of young people in underserved communities like Middle East and North Africa. And I'm sure you all want to know more about this organization. So to guide us through the organization today, we have a special guest. Today, we are honored to have Andrew Baird, the president and CEO of EFE, joining us. And with this visionary leadership and passion for social impact, Andrew has been instrumental in driving EFE's mission forward, and his dedication to creating opportunities for young people, especially in challenging contexts, has garnered admiration and recognition from everywhere around the world. So without a further ado, let's extend our warm welcome to Andrew Baird. So hi, Andrew, how are you doing?
Saankhya, I'm doing well. Thank you for such a kind introduction.
Thank you. So we'll start with the question. Tell us the story behind the establishment of this wonderful organization, and how have you landed to be a part of this?
Great question. EFE was really started as an outcome of the social unrest that was happening in the Middle East and North Africa in the kind of early 2000s. And the founder, Ron Bruder, who's an entrepreneur and philanthropist based in New York City, started asking the questions about why some of this was happening and decided to investigate. And really, to take a shortcut, what he found was that there was an extreme level of youth unemployment. And interestingly, that unemployment became even more exacerbated the higher one's educational status. So those with college degrees were more likely to be unemployed than those even with a high school diploma or a technical vocational diploma. So EFE was really formed originally to address this youth unemployment challenge and a skills mismatch that was identified in the region.
Yeah. So could you elaborate on your programs and how you conduct them, Andrew?
Absolutely. So EFE's mission is really to focus on trying to address this youth unemployment challenge that we've spoken of. We do this in a couple of ways. So first, we've decided very deliberately to take an approach whereby all of our organizations are locally registered. All of the countries that we work in have an affiliate that provides services to youth. So it's not an organization that's bringing in programs from the outside, but they're really generated from the inside to address local needs and to do it with local staff and local boards. And we really think that this is a key to the services that we provide. Those services include several channels. So the first, our flagship program, is our job training and placement program. This is a program that we work very closely with employer partners, as we call them, to identify the needs that they have, the jobs, the very specific jobs that they're hiring for now. And then we bring youth into the program who have some interest in those sectors or those jobs and provide the kind of missing skills and capacity that will enable them to succeed in those jobs. So this could be everything from communication skills, leadership skills, conflict resolution, to certain technical skills that might be missing, whether it's in a retail sector or auto mechanics or engineering. It's really sector agnostic. So we work very closely to develop those programs with the parameters that the employer partners identify as being important. We have a second tier of programs that we call a bit of a lighter touch, which focuses on job searching skills. So for many, it is really that difference between how to conduct an interview, get your CV noticed. The job search skills are that missing element. And so we provide kind of those skills as well. And a third program is an entrepreneurship program. And this is really focused on self-employment and helping people, in the words of one of our alumni, take an idea and turn it into a career. So those are our three primary pathways.
Wonderful, Andrew. So what makes EFE's approach to education and employment unique compared to traditional methods, do you think?
I think the thing that makes EFE unique is really that relationship with the employer partners. So we work with well over 3,000 employer partners in the Middle East and North Africa. And to have that demand-driven, immediate feedback is really important. So we know there's a job waiting for our youth. And this results in a nearly 86% placement rate of the youth who go through our job training and placement programs. I think the second thing which makes us unique is what I mentioned about the local ownership. Having this board of directors, having a local staff who are really tuned into their own communities creates an atmosphere where I think it just breeds more success. Youth have a greater connection. The institution has the ability to have a higher profile within its own community. And all of those things kind of come together, I think, to really support success.
Wonderful. So I can see that there's a lot of work happening, right? So in such a hard, thing that you're doing, there must be definitely a lot of challenges. So what challenges does EFE face in implementing its programs, and how do you overcome them?
There's certainly challenges. I would say one of the big challenges is keeping up with the demand and the changing demand for skills. If you look at what's happening today, one of the hot topics, of course, is AI, and how AI is changing careers, is changing the skills that are required of youth. We face this in a lot of sectors, not just around AI, but having all kinds of impacts that would affect the economy of a region. The COVID crisis certainly was one. So keeping up with the changing demand is certainly one. I would say another challenge that we tackle head on is a real focus on women and women's employment. So the Middle East and North Africa has the lowest women's labor force participation rate in the world. And there are structural reasons to that, but there are cultural reasons as well. So EFE tackles that head on. We work very hard with our employer partners to create an atmosphere which is conducive to supporting women entering fields that maybe aren't traditionally those that women would enter. And so we're very proud of that work, but it's a significant challenge and one that we're always working towards. I would say similarly, taking on the challenge of working with refugee populations. And there are always changing regulations guiding what sectors refugees are able to work in. And so making sure that we're providing services and programs that will be of value to them and also lead to employment or self-employment for refugee communities as well. I think any organizations who's working in the social sector who tells you that resources, financial and others, are not a challenge is probably not being straight. And so certainly that's another one that we are always focusing on, is making sure that we have the resources to continue to serve the populations that we're serving, and also hopefully to be able to expand into new ones.
So many challenges, I should say, but look at you, how you're competing and how all the time you're striving to, catch them up. It's amazing. So can you highlight some of the communities or regions where EFE has made a significant impact?
I'll talk about a couple of them. So EFE's program, actually, our first set of graduates graduated in 2006 in Gaza. Gaza is clearly one of the most challenging places in the world to find employment. And it was a very conscious decision, I think, to start in a place that is so challenging to test the theory behind what Education for Employment was doing. We had a very strong employer partner, and we have been in Gaza since 2006, providing training in entrepreneurship and job-seeking skills. And one of our newer programs there is really focused on the gig economy and recognizing that with the lack of bricks and mortar jobs, we can call them, one needs to find opportunities outside of Gaza to put the talent, which is really there, to a job which matches their skill sets. And so virtual jobs is a really important area. The entrepreneurship space is also one that we've had great success in. In fact, one of our graduates who was recently on a study tour met here in Washington, D.C., and we learned that she now employs 100 people in her community in Gaza. So some great successes there. I'd say a second place where we're very proud of the impact that we've had is in Yemen. And throughout the conflict in Yemen, EFE has maintained its programming. We focused very heavily in two areas. One, the healthcare sector was obviously a much needed area to be working in, where we have a nearly 100% placement rate of our graduates into healthcare related jobs, whether it's medical technicians or nurses or other. And the second is the entrepreneurship space. We've done a lot of work in entrepreneurship. In fact, one of EFE's graduates won the national prize last year for best new enterprise. So very proud of the work that our teams are doing there.
Wonderful. So can you share an inspiring personal experience or a story that has motivated you on this journey?
Well, I'll have to be honest, I'm motivated every day by the stories I hear and by the staff that I work with. I think one that comes to mind, again, I'll draw on our experience in Yemen. I was recently fortunate enough to meet one of our graduates there. She completed EFE's program about 5-6 years ago. And her intent was to have gone into medical technician field. She had studied this, had looked unsuccessfully for a job for about 2 years, I believe, joined EFE's program with the hopes to be placed in a job in that field. And early on in the training, one of the EFE staff recognized that she had maybe other sets of skills and asked if she would be interested in interviewing for a job in a different sector. Long story short, she interviewed for a secretary position initially. They then decided that actually they were so impressed by her, they wanted her as the executive assistant to the director of the organization, which she took. And as she said, her salary became almost 10 times what it would have had she taken the medical technician job. Now, this story didn't stop there. She worked there. Now she's an entrepreneur. She started a green construction job where she has been making construction materials out of recycled plastics. and has her startup in Yemen. Stories like this we hear repeated time and again. One other quick anecdote maybe I'll provide is from Tunisia. Tunisia, we had a young entrepreneur who really liked auto mechanics. A lot of his friends would come to him when they had questions when they were buying cars, and he recognized there was a gap in the market. There wasn't information available when one was buying a used car about whether it was a good vehicle or not. And so he created an app whereby people who were buying and selling cars could come together, and they would certify the condition of the car through a network of trusted mechanics. And he's providing this brokerage now between buyers and sellers of used cars. So an idea that he had at one point is now his career.
Wonderful, inspiring stories, Andrew. So how can a potential donor reach out to you to donate? And also, can you guide us through the process of donation?
Absolutely. Well, we've tried to make it as simple as possible. I think the easiest is through our website, which is efe.org. There is a way to donate there. We have two kind of donation focal points. One is our regular annual donation fund. And the second is we have launched a capital campaign, which is really enabling us to build our network out in ways that we haven't in the past. We're looking to expand our footprint into some new countries, including Lebanon as our newest expansion, but also looking to the south and potentially looking at expanding into areas of sub-Saharan Africa as well. So between the two funds, the capital campaign and our annual, there are multiple ways to engage. I will also say we're really interested in people who would love to mentor one of our youth. And so we have a mentorship program. Also on our website, one can sign up to become a mentor, work with a youth as they're beginning their career, whether as an entrepreneur or a new employee. And it's an incredibly gratifying way to engage with a youth who has great potential, but maybe has not had the opportunities that other of us have had.
Wonderful. So lastly, before we go, what would you like to convey to our listeners about the power of education and employment in transforming lives?
Well, one thing that we say on a nearly daily basis here is that talent is universal, but opportunities are not. And what we have seen is the transformative effect of providing the opportunity for youth to excel and to reach their own potential. What EFE provides is that bridge, the missing small pieces between their educational journey and employment. And this could mean everything from the ability to afford their own housing, to the ability to get married, to support children in school. It can really be life-changing, not only for them, but for their families. So we continue to do what we do. We believe very strongly in the impact that education for employment has. We have reached to date about 170,000 youth connected to employment. 56% of those are women. We're very proud of that as well. We know there's much more to do, and we would love to share the experience and do more with your listeners.
Wonderful. So thanks a lot for taking time for us, Andrew, and sharing your insights have been really important because, it promotes education and it promotes employment. So I'm really honored to be hosting you today, and you are doing a great job. So please keep the good work up.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it, and would love to keep you updated on what we're doing.
Thank you so much. So that was Andrew Baird, the president and CEO of EFE. Hope you find this interview insightful. And for more such interviews, stay tuned to TALRadio, powered by Touch Your Life Foundation. This is me, Saankhya, signing off for today. Take care, you all.